So Denver, Colorado, the mile-high city, is full of strange, unusual, and just flat-out entertaining stories. For example, did you know that our Denver International Airport is the center of some crazy conspiracy theories? Or the rumor that Sloan Lake has several elephant bodies buried beneath the lake? We'll uncover some haunted parks around town, some really quirky laws that actually do still exist in Denver, and probably also going to talk about that blue infamous Mustang out near the airport that actually killed its maker. Just make sure you stick around for all 7 because this last one might make you reconsider whether or not you want to continue or consider moving here to Denver, Colorado. But before we get started, as always, my name is Adam. Really excited to share this fun, different, just really entertaining episode with you today on my Living in Denver channel. But before we get started, just really quick, all that info down below. Feel free to reach out. I love connecting with viewers like yourselves and hopefully providing some value to help you guys consider moving here to the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. But enough of that, let's go ahead and get started. Again, 7 crazy, fun, entertaining facts all about Denver. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Again, in no particular order, I just wanted to share 7 fun, crazy, just interesting stories you probably don't know about here in Denver. And I just wanted to bring something a little bit different to you guys, just to be fun and kind of mix it up for this week's episode, again, on Living in Denver. So this first one is gonna be all about Cheesman Park. And Cheesman Park is a very famous park here in Denver. And one of the kind of unknown stories about Cheesman that not very many people know about is how there are rumors that there are actually a ton of buried bodies still underneath the ground in this Cheesman Park area. So originally, Cheesman Park was a cemetery called Mount Prospect, and this was back in 1858. However, about 40 years later, by the 1890s, the city of Denver realized that this would make a much better park than cemetery, so they made the decision to relocate all of the buried bodies and turn this into Cheesman Park. They hired an undertaker. His name was E.P. McGovern, and let's just say he didn't do the best job. There's rumors that he used child-sized coffins, even for adult bodies that he had to cut up just to fit and move to their new location. Many of the graves ended up never getting claimed and moved at all, and there's rumors that hundreds of bodies can still be found underneath in Cheesman Park. Another crazy story about this is Cheesman Park is actually right next to the Denver Botanic Gardens. If you guys haven't been there, check it out. It is an incredible place to go. And it is very beautiful, as you can imagine. You know, it's the best botanic garden in Colorado, in my opinion. And what's funny is since it is right next to Cheesman Park, there were a lot of workers at the Botanic Gardens that have also reported over the years when they've been doing different excavation and just redevelopment projects at the Botanic Gardens where they've actually found human bones. Now, whether this is just people that are kind of feeding into this, there are also a lot of different various recollections and people reporting that they've had strange, unusual, supernatural experiences both in Cheesman Park and then also in the Denver Botanic Gardens. I'll leave it up to you guys to decide. It's still a beautiful park regardless, but it might not be the best place to let your dog off leash and start digging a hole in the ground. Just be a little cautious on that one. But I thought this was a fun first story to share with you guys. Again, all about Cheesman Park and how there are reportedly still hundreds of bodies buried right there. And one last little bonus before we move on. If you guys are at all familiar with who Alfred Packer is, and I remember learning about him way back in the day when I was in, I think, elementary school. He was the first cannibal that I'd ever heard of. Didn't even know what that was until I learned about Alfred Packer.
She'll have to match wits.
I'll help you catch him, Clary.
Believe me, you don't want Hannibal Lecter inside your head.
But another interesting burial story is that he is actually buried here in Colorado in the Littleton Cemetery. And as you can imagine, there's been a lot of dark humor and just interesting artifacts and props left at the gravesite over the years. Everything from raw meat to plastic skeletons. Kind of funny in my opinion, but I never knew that until I was actually researching for this video, just to talk a little bit more about other famous burials here in the Mile High City. Alfred Packer. Another crazy, unusual, fun fact about Denver is some of these laws that still exist on the books, but are obviously not taken seriously anymore. But some of these I just think are hilarious. And one of these is actually the Denver vacuum cleaner law, where it is illegal to loan your next door neighbor your vacuum cleaner. Now, I did a little digging and I couldn't find any official law or regulation that supports this. It sounds like it's more of a myth than anything else, and it's most likely just a result of kind of a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of some of these laws and regulations that existed, over 100, 150 years ago. Now, while this might be debunked about the vacuum cleaner law, there are definitely several others that are still very well known and still talked about in a joking way about other regulations here in Denver. First one, that you're not allowed to drive a black car on Sundays. I'm not sure where this one came from, but I thought that was kind of unusual. Another one is about how up in Aspen, a place that I actually used to live for a long time, has some very unique regulations when it comes to catapults. So in Aspen, it's illegal to discharge any sort of propulsionary objects such as a catapult. As goofy as this sounds, the law was trying to just eliminate any sort of potential damage and just ensure public safety. A pretty unusual one here too, if you ask me. And then one other fun one, as you can imagine, Denver and Colorado is full of very vibrant, rich mining history, as well as cowboys and just a Western culture.
Howdy, partner.
Howdy, partner.
Just follow my lead. Howdy, partner.
Howdy, partner.
And this is still to the day today, and this isn't to a lot of people too big of a surprise, I'm guessing, but it is still something you can get a DUI for, so driving under the influence. You can also get the same thing while on a horse. Riding a horse while under the influence is prohibited in Denver, and my guess is this probably exists in most states. It's just probably a little bit more prevalent here in Denver, especially 100 years ago when we still had a lot of people getting around town on their horses. So this next one is a doozy, and this is the Denver International Airport. If you guys aren't already here in Denver, once you come out here and you spend a little bit of time in the Mile High City, you're gonna start to see and start to hear about some of these, because even after 25, almost 30 years of being built in the new Denver International Airport, some of these are still circulating around town and you still hear people talking about them. So there's actually 6 different things all about Denver International Airport that I think are super interesting, but also a little bit creepy. So the first one is about Blucifer. So Blucifer is the big blue Mustang with beady red eyes that you can see when you're driving up to the airport to drop somebody off at departures, or maybe going to arrivals, or just anytime you're getting really close to the airport, you're gonna look off to the side and you'll see Blucifer. He's 32 feet tall and is officially known as the Blue Mustang, but what he's really known for is how he actually killed his maker. So a man by the name of Luis Jimenez was the creator of Blucifer, and this actually was one of his biggest accomplishments, but also at the end, it was his demise. Blucifer actually toppled over on him and killed him when he was finishing the final touches on Blucifer to present it to the Denver International Airport. Obviously, this is a very unfortunate circumstance, but a lot of people look at this in a little bit deeper context and think that Blucifer might be cursed. Maybe this was some demonic way that he, took his aggression out on his creator, Luis Jimenez. I'll let you guys decide for yourselves, but that first of 6 crazy things about Denver International Airport, I thought was a good one to start with. So the second thing at Denver International Airport is the murals. Now, there are some creepy murals inside the Denver International Airport. If you guys are ever in the airport and you're trying to get up to baggage claim, or I should say you're trying to get up to where you drop off your bags when you're checking in, there's about 5 or 6 levels, and I think it's on like level 4, 5, and 6. You'll find a lot of these giant murals. The painter and artist who did a lot of these murals was a man by the name of Leo Tanguma, and they are cool. They're large, they're colorful, and definitely very dramatic. But if you really look deep into them, there are some messed up, weird, creepy scenarios and just scenes going on inside some of these murals. For example, in one of these murals, known as Children of the World Dream of Peace, you'll see, if you look really closely, kids wearing gas masks, kids holding swords and rifles. And some of these children are actually with doves behind them, laying the guns and the weapons down on the ground. I'm sure there's a lot deeper meaning behind this, but just a little creepy, especially if you see this one in person. In one of the other most famous murals, known as In Peace and Harmony with Nature, you can see a lot of very unusual environmentalist type illustrations. There's even, there's different children crying and just overlooking the destruction of the planet. Very dark and just kind of overwhelming if you really let yourself get, kind of enveloped inside this one. At the end of the day, the real conspiracy on these murals is that they're full of secret messages about upcoming global disasters, doomsday, just a lot of very dark stuff. In fact, on this last mural that I'm referring to, they even have rumors of talking about a rise of a new world order and mass destruction. Stuff that's pretty dark, especially as you're going into the airport to go travel and, visit a new place. So I just thought that these murals are a very unusual, eclectic taste to have at our amazing Denver International Airport. The third thing about Denver International Airport that I also think is very unusual and creepy is this statue that you'll find as you go into the airport. It's known as the Dedication Stone, also a Freemason symbolism, if you're familiar with that at all. And what's unique is when you look at this statue, there's a transcription underneath that says New World Airport Commission. So this New World, play on words has got a lot of people kind of thinking outside the box and wondering if this is a Freemason or potentially even some sort of a conspiracy. So as you can guess, naturally, a lot of conspiracy theorists are seeing this and saying that that statue and a lot of these different things I'm telling you about with the airport are connected in some way to the Illuminati and some of these Freemasons. But, I think this is probably not to be blown out of proportion. When I did some research on this, I did see that the New World Airport Commission was actually just the name of the group that helped fund the airport's construction back in the 1990s. So it's most likely not part of the Illuminati or too suspicious, but still something that people are talking about even here 30 years later. So this fourth thing about DIA is one that a lot of people talk about, and this is all about these underground tunnels that can potentially take you all around underneath the airport, and again, connected to potentially the Illuminati. So as you can imagine, when any airport is built, but especially one of the magnitude of Denver International Airport, there were a ton of underground tunnels built out ahead of time for moving the different baggage to different terminals and just really helping with a lot of the systems and just logistics of getting baggage to where people needed to go. Unfortunately, 30 years ago when the Denver airport was getting built, they found out that a lot of these baggage tunnels were actually not going to be able to be used because there were some mistakes during the construction, and just the location and just how everything was configured just didn't work out perfectly. So they had to actually abandon some of these tunnels. Now again, conspiracy theorists are saying that these underground tunnels that are abandoned are actually bunkers, potentially also areas that are being used by NORAD, which exists in legitimacy down in Colorado Springs that helps protect the United States of America. They're saying there's actually NORAD-related stuff in these bunkers underneath the Denver International Airport. And they're also saying that these could be bunkers for if a doomsday event ever did happen, for very world-class, highly elite type people to basically escape to and be protected. Again, most likely these tunnels are just collecting spider webs and dust, but I think this is one that a lot of people really latch on to and like to at least think or believe that maybe there's some level of truth to it. The fifth thing about the Denver International Airport is the gargoyles. So not sure if you guys are familiar, at the baggage claim in both the east and west terminals, you'll see up in the ceiling some of these gargoyle statues that just look very out of place. And when you see them, you're like, well, that's a little creepy. Like, what's going on there? Well, there's a lot of theories here. Some that are just saying that these gargoyles are, from history, are kind of known to help protect things, and they're there to help protect the airport. And I think that was what they really were trying to accomplish here. But without a doubt, regardless, they are definitely still very creepy, and they do fit in with some of the style that they've gone for in some of the parts of the airport where these do exist in the Jeppesen terminal, where the baggage claim is. And that's just kind of going into that Gothic style with the exposed beams and just how that part of the airport, at least originally, was envisioned to kind of appear and have that style that went with it. All right, and then the sixth and final stat all about the airport, before we move on to some other fun facts about Denver, is gonna be the layout of the runways at the airport. And this one's pretty interesting. So what's going on here, so if you look at the airport, and you look down on it from above, from a bird's eye view, so to speak, they say that the direction of the different runways looks exactly like a swastika. Now, while it is true that every airport has very specific configurations for the exact longitude, latitude of each of the runways and where they're positioned, you know, this I think is, again, a far reach and definitely not as much of a swastika as people might think it looks like. I'll let you guys take a look for yourself, but I do think there is some resemblance, but not enough to really dig much further on this one. So all 6 of those were all just about the Denver International Airport. I know I wanted to go a little bit deeper in on that one just because there were so many just fun and unusual things to share with you guys about the Denver International Airport. So I hope you guys got some enjoyment out of that one. All right, so we made it through that Denver International Airport segment. I know there's a lot in that one alone, but it really does just always have so many fun, just unusual stories about the airport that I want to make sure I shared all of those with you guys. But now let's move on to the 4th of my 7 crazy, unusual, spooky stats about Denver. And this one is going to be how there's actually another cemetery in Denver dedicated just to famous pets. This is located up in Golden, Colorado, close to Buffalo Bill Cody's gravesite up Lookout Mountain. And this is a very notable cemetery for some of these famous animals. Now, while most of us today probably aren't going to recognize any of the actual pets up there, they were some that were very famous back in the day, tagging along with people like Annie Oakley and Buffalo Bill Cody and some of their stage performances, as well as just some of their personal domesticated pets that they also wanted to bury in this very esteemed pet cemetery. Another little fun thing to share with you guys, if you are in the Golden area, there is also an incredible dinosaur trail that you can take where there are some of the best in Denver opportunities just to see footprints and other prehistoric remnants from, you know, several thousand years ago. And one thing that's very unique about this area, really close to this pet cemetery in this Golden area, is with the dinosaur, the Stegosaurus. So the Colorado state fossil is actually the Stegosaurus, and that's for very good reason. The first ever fossil discovery of the Stegosaurus actually happened in Morrison, Colorado, right next to Golden and very close to Buffalo Bill Cody's grave and the pet cemetery up there I was talking about. And it's very close as well to Red Rocks Amphitheater. I definitely recommend checking this spot out if you guys have any interest at all with dinosaurs. Great spot to take your kids to. All right, so the 5th fact about Denver that's a little unusual, this one's not quite as spooky as it is just kind of mind-boggling a bit, is all about our claim to fame of being the Mile High City. So if you can't figure it out, we're called the Mile High City because we're located exactly at 5,280 feet, 1 mile above sea level. And there's actually a few different spots in Denver where that exact elevation exists, and they've made an effort at the city capitol to find that exact place and have a kind of an honorary statue, or at least a memorial or a place that people can go to and know that when they're right exactly in that spot, they're sitting truly at the Mile High. So they're at the Mile High City on the Mile High. And this has changed 3 times now over the past several decades at the city capitol. And that's because with technology improving, they've realized that what actually is exactly 5,280 feet above sea level wasn't what they was once they thought it was before. So as I said, there's actually been 3 times where this elevation marker has changed. So this all started way back in 1909. So this initial placement was marked on the 15th step of the Capitol building on the western entrance. And to commemorate this, there's a bronze plaque put onto this 15th step, marking it as 5,280 feet. Unfortunately, over time, this happened to keep getting vandalized and people kept stealing this sign. So they eventually had to change it to something a little bit more permanent that just said 1 mile above sea level. Fast forward 60 years later to 1969, And some very smart engineering students, go figure, realized that that 15th step actually was not correct. Conducting a new study through the Colorado State University, they identified that it was actually supposed to be not on the 15th step, but on the 18th step. So this led to the second placement, which was now 3 steps higher on that 18th step, again, of the western entrance of the Capitol building. Now we're gonna fast forward another 35 years to 2003, more technology, more advancements, more accuracy, and believe it or not, now they realize that the true 5,280-foot elevation was the opposite. It was actually lower, and it should have been on the 13th step. So we went from 15 up to 18, and now we're going all the way back down to lower to the 13th step. And ever since then, the 13th step is now truly what's known as the 5,280-foot elevation marker, the Mile High City. So moving on to the 6th fun fact about Denver. This one is all about the very first permanent Denver building that existed. Now let's all think for a second, what was it? You know, was it a bank? Maybe it was a barber? Maybe it was a bar? We got that one right, it was a saloon. First building in Denver, and go figure, it was a saloon. So all the way back in 1858, during the gold rush, we actually had, you know, our priorities maybe in the right order, depending on who you ask, and it was gold mining as well as drinking. So the very first permanent structure had to be a saloon. Thought that was kind of funny and pretty fitting for, you know, just how a lot of the people are here in Denver that love their beer and just love having a little fun and letting loose. So the guy that actually opened up this first saloon, his name was Uncle Dick Wooten, and he opened it up in 1858 in the later part of the year in December. And what he was known for as far as what they served at this saloon, and believe it or not, these ingredients, I double checked this, are what they said were in this drink. This is insane. It was a potent mix of whiskey, chewing tobacco, gunpowder, and jalapeno peppers. I dare you to give me 4 ingredients that don't sound more disgusting, or I should say the last 3 ingredients, than what I just told you. I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm good on having a Taos Lightning drink anytime soon. All right, so we made it to the final crazy, spooky, unusual, whatever you want to call it, fun fact all about Denver. And I saved this one for last because this is one that I really enjoy because I lived in this part of Denver for a long time, and this has to do with Sloan Lake. So Sloan Lake, just on that western side of downtown Denver, really close to Edgewater, just south of Highlands. This is an area that is very popular. Tons of people are out and about every single day, either driving through this part of town or also a ton of people just enjoying the actual Sloan Lake Park. That's what I did for several years. I walked around it with my dog almost on a daily basis. And little did I know then, and little do pretty much anybody that's over there ever even think about or know about this, but back in the day, there are a lot of rumors that there are several deceased elephants buried underneath the ground in some areas even underneath the lake for where it is today. I took a few notes on this one just to share a little bit more specifics with you, so check this out. So way back in the day, there was actually an area in Sloan Lake known as Manhattan Beach. Kind of a goofy name if you ask me for Denver, but it was called Manhattan Beach. And in this Manhattan Beach area, there was actually a traveling amusement park / circus. One of the most famous parts of this traveling circus was their elephant named Roger. So this was all the way back in 1881. It was on the north side of Sloan Lake. And if you guys are familiar with Sloan Lake, that's referring to the side that borders 26th or 20th. And I think is one of the nicest sides of Sloan Lake. So it just kind of really surprised me that it was that part of the park where this is potentially where the elephants are buried. And this traveling circus, this amusement park, was back then actually known as the first west of the Mississippi. So you can think about, where the Mississippi River is. This was the very first one in the entire nation to the west of that. I thought that was also really cool. So believe it or not, even all the way back in 1891, there was a hot air balloon in this area of the amusement park that was taking off. I'm not sure if it was for sightseeing or maybe it was just part of the attraction at this Manhattan Beach amusement park, but regardless, when it was happening, it startled Roger the elephant. He ended up kind of bucking up in the air and had two young adults, young adults on his back that he threw off of him, and he ended up actually killing one of them. And this young boy at the time, his name was George Eaton. After this happened, a lot of mixed feelings and opinions from different people, and a lot of people were, saying that, what, this can't happen again. The elephant needs to be euthanized and put down. Since it is so long ago, it is hard to tell what exactly happened to Roger, if he was euthanized or if he was continuing to be a main part of the Manhattan Beach amusement park for years to come. But the only indication that he may have been euthanized and buried in this area underneath Sloan Lake is that they used to advertise every year that the elephant Roger was going to go in for his annual bath in Sloan Lake. And this was an annual print advertisement that one year just stopped existing. And they're thinking that this corresponds or correlates with the same year that this tragic happened where the 6-year-old boy was killed. So they're saying that there's a good chance that when this happened, he was euthanized and buried underneath the ground in an area that now is actually underneath water, as the Sloan Lake actually expanded a bit to a little bit larger footprint than what it was back then. And on another quick side note, a few years later after all of this, in 1908, there was a large fire that destroyed a lot of this amusement park area that it was in. And at the same time, this is also when Elitch Gardens was starting to get developed and about to open and be a new staple in Denver. So there's a lot of competition at the time. So when all of this happened at an inconvenient time for the amusement park, the circus, they decided just to close down and they left for good. I'll let you guys make your own decision on that one, but I like to at least think and hope that that was a true story, and at least not obviously the negative part of the elephant killing the young boy, but just the fact that there was the first amusement park west of the Mississippi, and they did have all of these cool things going on at this park that 25 years later is still such a vibrant part, a staple here in Denver, Colorado. So I thought that one especially was very interesting and fun to share with you guys. Well, you guys, I hope you had a good time today going through all of these interesting, fun, scary, just unusual facts about Denver. I know this was a very different style of video from what I typically do, but I really wanted just to do something lighthearted and just share some fun entertainment with you this week. As always though, don't forget all of that info down below. I am a licensed realtor here in Denver, Colorado. Love making videos like this one, but I really like just connecting with viewers like yourselves. So feel free to reach out, shoot me an email, give me a call, shoot me a text, whatever's most convenient. I would love to just connect, learn a little bit more about you, and whether you're seriously looking today, tomorrow, or maybe not for another year or two, there definitely is still some value that I can provide you with today. We can hop on a quick Zoom call and we can learn a little bit more about each other and hopefully build a little bit of a friendship. So I'm looking forward to connecting with you guys. So seriously, take me up on that offer. And until next week, I hope you have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. And I look forward to a brand new episode coming out next time for you guys on my Living in Denver YouTube channel. I'll see you guys then.